Hey folks, Rainmaker.com here. I guess you kind of knew that. I guess I'm just used to starting videos like that. And hopefully you'll be able to hear this and hopefully everything's working. I spent the last like 2 hours getting it all working, which is the way we start every single live stream. One of these days I'll just be able to like press a button and just go and hope it all works. So you have to let me know once in the comments there, once you see it. As you saw, the intro didn't roll because that was the only thing that actually worked this entire time the last couple hours, and everything else not so much. In any case, we're here to take your questions. I'm here to take your questions, and it looks like you got a bunch of them here, so we'll kind of get right into them. Let's see. Oh, just catching folks up. I'm finally back in Amsterdam after being away for what felt like basically 2 months. There was CES in early January in Vegas, and some events that were kind of tied to that on both sides, and then I went from there back home here for like about 5-6 days, something like that. And then from there down to Cape Town. I've been there since, I guess, mid-January or so, and loving every bit of it. So was kind of a blast. Like I got to ride outdoors and enjoy the weather, both off-road and on-road. I don't get to ride off-road all that often, unfortunately. It's something I wish I could do. Folks are saying audio is a bit low, so we'll go ahead and move that up a little bit there, see if that helps a little bit. Let me know if that's any better. There's like a delay about 30 seconds or so between when I and you, and so it kind of takes a little bit of time. Any case, off-road, I loved off-road riding. I only get to ride off-road mountain biking like basically 3 times a year, 2 times a year now that Interbike is gone. So usually I get to ride it Interbike, and then I get to ride it at the Amp Plus Symposium up in Canada. And that's about it. Sometimes I get a chance, like if I'm going down to Mallorca or the Canary Islands or something to do something else, I might be able to sneak it in, like just a ride or so, but not enough like technically can get back up to speed. So it's kind of nice to like have a few rides where I felt like I wasn't so technically behind everyone else. Like aerobically I can mostly keep up, but technically like just ascending and descending is not my cup of tea when I only mountain bike twice a year or so. Anyways, someone says it's off altogether. That's not good. I don't know how to solve that. Let's see. There we go. It says much better. Okay, well, I'm not sure why it's gone, but hopefully you're hearing me there. Let's see. Beyond that, road riding was awesome. Swimming was awesome. Just in general, we loved Cape Town. Looking forward to getting back. Let's see. So I think the audio is good. Hopefully it's good. If it's not good, then just let me know in the comments there. I'll keep watching. And we'll get right up into it here. So let's see, Jonathan asked, the furthest comment I can go up is the Osmo Pocket a quality camera? The last video made reference to a future video that hasn't come out yet. So that's definitely on the to-do list of my videos. I shot everything down in Cape Town, so I've got all that good to go. So sorry, I'm kind of watching comments to make sure that the sound is all good here. But I shot all of the Osmo Pocket stuff down in Cape Town. Now it's just a case of like editing it. That's really simple as it is. My general thoughts are Osmo Pocket is a great camera for what I do for conventions, like run and gun type stuff. I actually don't think it's a good vlogging camera. So I'll make it a little bit louder. Folks are saying a little bit louder. I'll do that here and hope for the best. Let me know if that's getting better or not. But I don't think it's a good vlogging camera for just folks that are interested, because of the fact that you have to hold it like way the heck out there. Like it just, I've got really long arms. Like I don't know how long they are, but like I'm a big bird, and it doesn't. Even when I have it all the way out, I'm still super cropped in. So I'll keep going up a little bit more there on volume. I'm super cropped into me, and so like it just ends up being my head, which just feels awkward. Like I feel like it should be roughly here up, and that carries then over into other areas like mountain biking, for example. I brought up mountain biking, and ignoring like whether or not it works well in vibrations and stuff like that, it's just you don't really get the concept of mountain biking. You just get the forward, because I think the coolest view that most mountain bikers use is where you have your handlebars and frame there, and you can't get that with the Osmo Pocket. It's too far forward, or you know the crop is too far forward. So to me, it's not ideal there. Also, it's not at all waterproof. The SD card, so I was trying to see if I had it on here somewhere, but the micro SD card slot is basically like completely exposed. Like literally there's not even a cover on it. So any water or anything like that is going to be tough on that. And so I'm not a huge fan of that in general for sports stuff. Awesome for lots of other uses. Like I said, using conventions and stuff to be able to quickly shoot things is kind of where I am on that. So I'm going to see how much more I can increase this volume. I'm kind of like at a loss for ways to pump it up even more here. I've got things already pretty high up. So sorry, I'll keep on trying to maybe just turn up your volume. I don't know, it's all the way to the max. The slider's as far as it goes, so sorry. Osmo Pocket, I'll still have a video comparing the two, the GoPro and Osmo Pocket. Again, I think GoPro is hugely mistaken if they think that DJI isn't going after the lunch. Like, of course they are. They're just getting there. It's just one step at a time. And once they put that into a little waterproof package, GoPro's in a tough spot. So back up to other questions here. Let's see. Should I buy an Edge 520 Plus or Edge 820, or is a new version of either expected soon? It's always hard to say with new versions, but generally speaking, Garmin releases new versions of those products in the April timeframe and in the August timeframe, Eurobike. So Sea Otter and Eurobike is like almost like clockwork is when products come out. The Edge 520 Plus came out a year ago, but that was sort of just a build on the existing 520. Like, so the hardware wise, it was basically the exact same hardware with a little bit of storage in there. So I think it's overdue for a refresh there. I think the 820 is probably overdue as well. I just hope that if they've come out something new, it's just fast. That's all I'm asking for. Like, I think Garmin needs to kind of buck up a little bit there and just make it so it's not so darn slow. Compared to everything else I try, it's so horrendously slow that it's just not, it's frustrating to me. Let's see. Have you finished your review of the Zwift running pod? That would imply I've started my review of the Zwift running pod. It's in a box, actually. I took the box, I took it all the way to Cape Town, and then I looked at it there, and then every day I looked at it, and then I took it all the way back here, and it's still in the box. That said, I've used the Milestone pod, which is the exact same pod from before, and to me, it's adequate. Like, it's not the most accurate thing out there, but I think for most people Zwift running, it's actually fine because you're not getting a lot of variance that you would have outdoors. The treadmill is pretty consistent, and so I think for me, that actually works out just fine. Let's see, Hayden asks, if you could only use one smart trainer, one fitness watch, and one cycling computer on the bike, what would they be? That's tough. I think to me, like if I were to narrow it down to one smart trainer, it's probably going to be either the Tacx Neo or like a Wahoo Core plus Climb combination is sort of my guess. Today I rode the Tacx Neo merely because it was the closest thing to the spot where I had to put the trainer, so I was kind of just lazy. One smart fitness watch, I would say either the 935 from Garmin or the Fenix 5 Plus or the S. Right now I'm wearing the S, someone asked that there. Yeah, this is just a Fenix 5 S Plus. It's merely because I was doing some testing on this comparative to the Garmin Instinct down in Cape Town, and it's just been on my wrist since I got home yesterday, so that's kind of the way it works. Let's see, going down on questions. Any chance Wahoo opens up compatibility to use Very Radar with their head units? From Ryan. I hope so. They keep talking about it, and it keeps not happening. I don't know. I don't know if Wahoo understands how like hardcore dedicated people are with the Varia Radar and head units. Like the number of people that have said to not just Wahoo, but to Stages, but to Sigma, but to others that I am staying with Garmin until the Varia Radar is supported on your head unit. I would think by now they'd get it, but I don't know. Maybe there's different priorities and stuff. And to be clear, the Varia Radar is totally open standard. Like any company can implement that on their platform today, so it's kind of good. Narwhal asks, is the girl going to make a guest appearance today? She is not. She was just finishing building up our daughter's big girl bed all afternoon, and then she just ran off to get the kids here just a minute ago. So no joining us today, unfortunately, but she did enjoy her first race back. So she first raced after the kids, and she just went out and rocked it. So I actually met some DCR readers, viewers, and stuff like that mid-race and paced with them. It was really funny. So it's always funny like where people find us. Let's see, scrolling down a little bit here, making sure audio is at least functional, sorry. Norm asks, any update on the tax bike? No, no, it's March 1st. I'm waiting just like you. I was emailing them about some other stuff, some Flux 2 stuff I was having some issues with in the last couple of days, but no update on the bike. I will let you know as soon as I have it. I will like publish something here the second it comes over here. I'm like the closest point to them. They're only like a 20-minute drive away or something, so it shouldn't take long once it's like actually out of the factory. But I don't want to do any like review on a pre-production unit. I had one here for a little while, but to me, like, I just want it when it's done. It's as simple as that. When it's done, let me know, and then I'll throw it through my testing cycle. George asks, will we be doing a review of the Galaxy Watch Active? Yes, I actually bought one yesterday, in fact, or I ordered one. Here in the Netherlands, or maybe it's all across Europe, the delivery date is until March 15th, so it's like a week after the US delivery date, so I'll be a little behind everyone else, but I think it'll be all right. My goal this time, so people always ask, like, why haven't I reviewed some of the Samsung watches? And the problem is I get through it and I start using it, and it's just like a cascade of crap problems, and it's so frustrating to me because I'm trying to, like, I always try to give folks the benefit, the companies, the benefit of the doubt, and like, is it me? Is it my process? Is it my running? Is it my cycling? Is it me that's causing this problem? And so I try lots of things, and I go through all the forums and try things that people troubleshot and see if I can make it work. And it's always been sort of the problem with me and all of the Galaxy watches I've tested, all the Samsung watches I've tested, is that like I spend what ends up being months doing this whole thing, and then by the end of it, I'm like, I'm just so sick and tired of the darn watch. I don't even feel like spending days to write up a review or a video or whatever. It just ends up sitting in a tub in the storage closet there. So I think what I'm gonna do this time with the Galaxy Active, I'm just gonna, like, the day it arrives, a simple like 10-day, 2-week timer, and then whatever it is on that day, it is what it is. If it's great, awesome. If they fixed all their issues, awesome. If they haven't, then so be it, and that just is what it is. I'm not going to wait any longer for them to fix their crap. When I say fix their crap, I'm talking mostly accuracy. GPS accuracy is absolutely dismal on all the past Samsung watches, and heart rate accuracy is just right behind it. Even simple things like acquiring GPS, satellites can take like 5 to 7 minutes. It's absolutely bonkers. Anyways, let's see. Pavlo asks, yep, Phoenix 5 S Plus is what I'm wearing on the watch wrist right now. Again, just sort of like what happened to be there. It's actually really interesting. Right now, I'm in between watches. It's like I don't have any reviews that are watch focused that I know that I should be doing anyways. Right now, it's kind of nice. That'll end next week, but for right now, I am a free agent, which basically means I'm a lazy agent, and that's just what I've got on my wrist from yesterday, and which actually means that's what I landed yesterday, and so it's really the day before. And anyways, let's see. A few people ask, what's up with the IQ squared power meter, IQ2 power meter? What's going on? I don't know. It's just like the tax spike. I have no idea. I'm putting that in the camp of when it comes, it comes. Oddly enough, both companies are like just not even, I don't know, 10 kilometers apart, 15 kilometers apart at most. Very, very close to each other on the same side of the highway, in fact, I think. So I don't know. I've always said with IQ Square that I don't think they were going to ship until this spring. So in my mind, I'm kind of like, if they ship this spring, then they're on time. Even though I know they said they ship last like August or September or something. But if they ship this spring, then in my mind, it's like, yay, Ray was right. So we'll see when that happens. I think they're going to find out, like everyone else, that power meters, well, I think they've already found out, power meters are very, very difficult. And so when you promise to do something that no one else has done before in a certain technical way, you're going to learn all the challenges alongside that. I'm actually not as concerned. A lot of people have been I've been seeing some comments like flustered and stuff around the fact that they've pre-sold more units at a lower price point, and these units are apparently heavier units, so they're not quite as optimized as the Kickstarter ones, and saying that's a sign of things failing, and I don't think so. There's a lot of reasons why a company might want to do that. Also a lot of reasons that could indicate trouble, but a lot of reasons could be like, one, from a tooling standpoint or from a part standpoint, they can hit the next kind of batch of quantities where it makes sense and they got a price break there, and you can obviously argue that, well, they should do that anyways and just hope to sell those parts later on. But there's also reasons around funding. If they can hit certain sold levels or product sold levels, then they can attract certain investor types, and here in Europe there's also areas where they can open up doors to different government grants. So I don't overthink that too much. To me, they're making progress on manufacturing things and whatnot. That's obvious by their Kickstarter updates. Obviously, they haven't really shared any meaningful data. They shared like 1 or 2 sets, and I think that is probably telling us some of the challenges they have. Generally speaking, if a company is making great data all the time. They're going to keep on sharing that data. That's what I've seen from virtually every other company. I can understand why they're hesitant to give it to people like me or GP LaMontchain Miller or others, because we're going to, tighten screws down and see what happens. But I would have thought by now they'd be sharing more data, just because data is easy. Like, you can cherry pick the data at this point. Like, that's choose whatever data you want to cherry pick. Just keep on sending people data. Let's see. Oh, and one more thing on that thought. I know I'm kind of rambling, but on the IQ squared, they do use a DCR analyzer, which is like the comparison tool that I have. And so that's how they've shared out sets and whatnot. I don't look or have any like desire to look at any of their backend stuff. So their data is confidential to them. That's theirs. They can do whatever they want with it. So I'm not looking at those sets unless they've shared them publicly and they've put them on a link somewhere. Not my thing. Let's see, Jeff Taylor asks, thoughts about the Wahoo watch, the oft-rumored, never-ending rumored Wahoo watch. I think it's like power meters. Their watches are hard. There's a lot of big companies that have learned that lesson the hard way. TomTom, for example, and others. And the rumors are saying that Wahoo wants to build like a full multi-sport watch or something like that. That's even harder. Like, TomTom set out to build the easiest thing, like a simple running watch that did some very basic cycling features. And look where it got them. Like, they eventually had to shut down that portion of the company despite being relatively successful. Watches are really, really hard, and the bar for like a running watch is, well, the bar for like a fitness watch is here. Like, there's a certain level you have to get to like meet a basic, I don't want to say basic Fitbit because that makes Fitbit sound bad, but from like a basics running standpoint, there's a bar here. And then when you get to like a higher end running watch, like a Garmin 235 or something like that, then the bar is here, or even like a 6 something or other, the bar is here. But then when you get to multi-sport, the bar is really, really high. And I don't think a lot of companies really understand that, is how difficult it is to make a multi-sport watch. Because you have to do 3 sports right, and not even 3, you have to do like 6 sports right. You have to do running indoor and outdoor, you have to do swimming indoor and outdoor, and you have to do cycling indoor and outdoor right. And you have to have all the sensors and all the things that triathletes want, because triathletes have all the things. And so it's really difficult, and I think, I suspect Wahoo's probably learning that lesson, and that's fine. I think that's, they'll keep on learning it, and if they eventually go that direction, and if they do that, then so be it. Let's see. Brad asks, can we ask you anything related to tech that you've read in the past? Of course, yeah, no problem. Go for it. Let's ask me anything, tech, non-tech, whatever. It's all good. Andrew, a question I have around, oh Lord, I just clicked the wrong thing and went way down the list of questions here. Where did Andrew go to? There we go. Question I have around full gas and Zwift options with ATV and how best to integrate with Kicker Core and getting cadence data from a separate power meter. Full gas is awesome, and you can even run 2 different apps at once. Like today I ran Peloton and Zwift side by side using the same data, so I was getting credit on both platforms effectively. I was actually following the Peloton workout, but was streaming that data to Zwift, so I get my experience / now drop points, so I can buy my new Canyon bike. As far as getting cadence data into those apps, it depends honestly on how the app's designed. Most apps only accept a single power meter, and so or a single like power data source, be it the trainer or power meter. Some accept separate ones, like Zwift of course accepts separate ones, and then you can add cadence in that. For apps that don't accept separate ones, you're gonna have to add a cadence sensor, unfortunately, to like separate that out, that data in a different stream. I keep on hoping that Wahoo will allow you to either like pair in a cadence sensor that solves the whole Apple TV problem, for example, where you can only have 2 channels. So what Andrew's referring to there is the fact that you have to have or you can only have a maximum 2 data sources on Bluetooth Smart into Apple TV plus the remote control. So that means you have a trainer and you have a heart rate strap. You can't have cadence unless the cadence came through the trainer. Again, I think Wahoo just needs to buck up there. Every other trainer company in the industry brings cadence in, except Wahoo. So find a way. They've talked about it for like 5 years now. Let's see. Hi DC, Leonardo asks, hi DC, I'm using a single pedal power meter and considering upgraded to double. What are your thoughts? I think that's a good thing. I think single pedal / single leg / single anything There's a lot of caveats there. It's not a bad place to start, like your power meter journey, but the more data you collect over time, the more you realize the pitfalls, the downsides to single leg, especially if you're doing longer rides, fatigue. Like I fatigue very, very differently between legs, and so those power numbers start to drift, not just 1 or 2% off, but like because everything's doubled, 5% or 8% off over a long ride in my case. Like sprints, for example, I'm pretty even up to my FTP wattage. So like if I go up to say like 300 watts, pretty even balance-wise between left and right leg. But as I go above that, like if I go like an 800 watt sprint or something, then my balance goes wah. And when that happens, because everything's doubled in a single leg power meter scheme, that means that those numbers either under or overshoot what they are. So I think it's a good thing to look at to kind of balance that out, as you might say. Let's see. Dave asks, any suggestions of using the Onboard Garmin HRM versus a chest strap? It probably depends on the watch. I find some Garmin, the Garmin watches have their Elevate optical heart rate sensor, and it's had a bunch of variants along the years, and so different watches actually have different versions of sensors in it, and then they've had firmware updates to those sensors, and so things are generally getting better. But for me, like I can do long runs and most interval work without too much of a problem, whereas like road riding generally just sucks for me with the optical sensor. Some interval workouts can suck, but most are pretty good. So it kind of just depends on you. I think for most people, like if you go out and throw down a simple interval workout, you can generally see whether or not that sensor is working. Like, an interval workout, if you just do like, 4 by 800 meters or whatever you want, it doesn't really matter. You should see like nice, smooth humps. And if you see like this and then jag and then boom and then straight down and then drop and then it just looks like an Etch-a-Sketch, then that probably tells you that that particular optical sensor isn't super awesome. So something to keep in mind there. I would in that case probably look at least super awesome for you. I would look at going ahead and using a chest strap. A bunch of questions on IQ squared. Basically, again, as soon as I have a unit, I talked about it back a while ago, maybe like 10 minutes ago. As soon as I have a unit, I will definitely talk about it, good and bad. So let's see. Troy asks, are you testing the SRAM ETAP power meter? Assuming you're talking about the Access one. I did a kind of a preview type thing back in January that I wrote it then, and I guess that was broadcast or released or whatever you want to call it in February. So there's a video on that, and there's semi-disposable chain rings. I'm not a fan of it, though I think some people have made it out worse than it is. It's not ideal. Like at the end of the day, it's going to cost you $100 more than it should to do that whole swap-a-roo situation. It is what it is. Like I don't know. I'm really curious to see what they do on Force. That's rumored to come out in April timeframe, and see what they do there. I'm also really curious to see how SRAM reacts to the pricing concerns that they've had around access at the red level, anyways. Because I think it's been overwhelmingly negative. I think it'd be really hard to find people that are positive about it. Like I think people are like, oh, that's super cool tech, and they look at the price, they're like, and buy. And it's not even like a conversation. It's not a conversation of, oh, that's pricey, but I think I can work it in next year. It's just like, nope, gone. And I'm hoping that SRAM is thinking about that. I'm hoping they're looking at that and going, I think we missed the target here. I think we missed the mark. But we'll see. Let's see. Going down through here. Brad, you are a strong cyclist. I find slippage about 1200 watts on the Tax Neo. Ever experienced that when you sprint? I can't do 1200 watts, but I can do 1000 watts. And yeah, you can on a Tax Neo 1 or 2, doesn't really matter. You can get that slippage basically when you go from low speed to high speed. It actually doesn't have a whole lot to do with wattage. It's just like if you're just kind of like moseying along and then you boom, punch it real quick, it'll slip every single time. It's been like that for years. I don't think there's a solution there in the technology at this point in time. Let's see. Stanislav asks, I just got a Directo, and I think at some point, maybe while changing the grade in Zwift, I get vibrations in the pedals, and some other times maybe. Is this normal? Nope, not normal. If you're getting vibrations, something is wrong. Aaron asks, what are your thoughts on the state of wireless earbuds for sports at the moment? $20 wireless earbuds, probably the way to go. I don't know, I guess I'm not, like for me, I love music, I listen to music all day long, I love quality music, I got Sonos speakers around, all that kind of stuff, but when I'm running, I don't think I'm hearing the quality. I don't think it's possible for me with earbuds. If you're talking like over the ear sort of things, then sure. But with earbuds, I think there's so much else going on, whether it be my breathing or just like not trying to die while running, that I'm not hearing that quality level. And so for me, I'd rather have something I could lose, not worry about. So like I like the Anchor $20 ones that I mentioned, I think in the Vivo Active 3 music Spotify video a week or two ago. I just like things that are cheap, and I don't want to say disposable, but I don't feel bad when I lose, especially something that small that I think I eventually do seem to lose. Let's see. Joined late, James asks, thought on in-game content for purchase on Zwift. What kind of things are they selling? Sorry if you already covered it. So definitely check out GP Llama, Shane Miller's video on that, his channel, for all of like what they're selling in there. But essentially right now it comes down to bikes and wheels that they're selling in that, and that they converted your experience points into drop points, and then from there you can buy things with them. And so it's a cool concept. My bike is actually in there. Thankfully, I've got a Canyon Ultimate, and I can put it in there, and I can, right now I have about 900,000 drop point things, and I think the drops name, by the way, is just wonky. Why didn't points work? But anyways, that's fine. And so I had to spend 400,000 to get that Canyon bike there in the game, which is fine because I don't know what else to do with these points. And so, like from my standpoint, I'm like, oh, I got points, I might as well spend them. And whereas, like, I guess I don't know. I guess to me, I feel like it's kind of like they dropped the shop on us, but they didn't really provide a lot of context as to what the future is. And so I don't know, like, should I spend those 400,000 points on this bike, or should I like wait and you're going to allow me to do like a level unlock or something else, not like an up or down level, but like a road unlock or who knows what. So it's interesting. It's all advertising. Like at the end of the day, I suspect companies are paying to get into Zwift to have their goods featured there, and so it's just another form of advertising, which is cool. It works, and as long as that whole ecosystem continues to do its thing, then all good. Let's see. Helder says, thanks for your reviews and Shane's. I got the Suunto Spartan Trainer HR and switched to the Suunto 9 for pedals. The Asioma Duo pedal just works. You are correct. They just work. They work really well every time. Almost as much as me remembering to put two power cables, one for my Mac, which is broadcasting, and one for my laptop, which is what I'm viewing all the comments on. So hopefully this will keep on. We'll play this like Tango game for a while. Let's see. Leon asks, hi there, something giving a reliable heart rate during swimming? No, I haven't. I don't spend, to be honest, a ton of time like doing swim stuff with heart rate, mostly because I find it super laggy. And so even if I find a real-time solution, I think that lagging a bit just makes it not super useful. I think swimming heart rate is more interesting like in a post-analytics space, but I think right now it's really tough to get good heart rate that works. And the products that like Polar's chest strap that worked fairly well, they're not being continued into the new swimming products. So it's kind of a tough thing there. Greg, how do you think the tax acquisition by Garmin will benefit the consumer? Have you done any daydreaming about a potential piece of tech they could create? So I did a whole video, like a 10-minute, like not a big video, like a straight talk through, one-stop shop back, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, whenever it happened. So definitely check that out on my thoughts on all that. And I also have a post as well you can check out there. I think it will actually benefit consumers. I think it's going to do a bunch of things. It's going to keep some other players in check. I think it's also going to probably lower prices for certain groups, not for everyone, but certain groups, probably in the US is my guess. I think it's going to clean up the tax lineup. I think the tax lineup right now is really nice at the top end. Like, you know, Neo's good, and the Flux makes sense to a degree, but then there's like multiple Fluxes, and then there's this whole slew of wheel-on trainers that's just too many. Like, it needs to be good, better, best sort of thing. Clean up that lineup, make it simple. I think it'll really benefit support and distribution, though. I think that's probably the biggest benefits for consumers there. in figuring that out. And so making sure that customers worldwide can get legitimate support. That's always been a big challenge for taxes, no matter where you are in the world, getting good support, versus Garmin has distribution everywhere and support everywhere. You know, there may be like different quality levels of support within Garmin for different countries, but by and large, it's functional. So that's a step up, I think, than what tax can offer in every particular country. And so I think that's probably the biggest benefit there. Let's see. And the second part of the question, do I need daydreaming a potential piece of tech that could create? The more I think about it, the more I think there could be an interesting play there against, like, adjacent to Peloton. So not directly competing with Peloton. I don't think Garmin has the cultural something like Peloton, which I spent riding today. I didn't use the bike, I used the app. But the whole aspect of it is like designed to be compete with sexy people sort of thing, like, or ride with sexy people and become sexy. Like that's what they sell. They sell sex appeal. Garmin is not good at all at that. Like, no part of being trendy is Garmin good at. They're good at lots of other things, but not that. And so I don't think they could directly compete against Peloton, but I think there's an opportunity there for them to come in and say, you know what? There is a crap ton of spin studios out there around the world that have crappy bikes in them and a crappy overall platform. And I think they could come in and do something around that, leveraging what Tax has done on their Tax bike, and leveraging what Garmin can do from a scale standpoint, from a software perspective, and all that kind of stuff. Software like Garmin bug quality aside, I think there's potential for that. And I suspect that's where we might see things become really interesting down the road. For the general consumer, I'm not sure. I don't really know what they're going to do there that's like going to wow me, but I'll find out in probably a year or so. I don't expect any changes this year. I think this year, like, things are in the books. They're cooking the way Tax already planned them. I don't expect any changes, meaningful changes this year. I know I'm way behind the questions now. I just went even further down the list. Super Tampon 5 asks, do you think 4eyes should introduce temperature compensation, or is it unnecessary? I thought they had it in there, but either way, from what I see, 4eyes has some of the best accuracy out there. That was taken to a slightly better level as well with what they did specialized. I don't think there's any reason for them to change anything they're doing. I think it's working pretty darn well. The 5K runner asks, says, welcome back to the EU. Do you think Garmin will release a dual band ANT++ BLE footpod this year? I don't know. I think Garmin will refresh all their sensors over time. They've kind of like hinted at that. They started off with that with the HRM Dual this past whenever. The question is really more, will Garmin release another footpod? And that's a more challenging thing. I think if they want to compete in that Zwift-ish game, then yeah, you have to have Bluetooth Smart in order to compete there. But it's whether or not they care about a footpod. Like, I think outside of me and you, because I know you, 99.999% of consumers don't care about footpods. And as we look at Garmin's industry trends and where they're going, all that kind of stuff, they're making their money in areas that are not footpod carrying people. So I'm not sure if they're going to dive into that, especially if they know like Zwift has Milestone, as Zwift comes along and says, well, we're just going to stick ANT+ in there or enable it on the chips that's probably already in there, then it's probably going to be a tough game to play for the crowd that would already know that was there. That's my guess. Dur asks, hi, do you know when the external mic adapter for the DJI Osmo Pocket will be out? Since you reviewed it, I wish I knew. I sent them an email a couple days ago again, sound of silence. So I don't know why it's so difficult. It works really well. I don't know why they just don't ship it. I'm sure there's some reason. I'm sure there's some like bizarre thing, but I don't know. I wish I knew. 5K Runner asks, do you know if current Garmin tech can support benefit from dual frequency Galileo to get down into the 1 meter GNSS accuracy? I don't know. I'm not sure where they are. Maybe I'll ask when I'm there in April. I think I'm going to visit there. So I'll have to find out. I don't know what they're doing there. And they tend to be a little bit hesitant to talk about some of the satellite stuff in my experience in the past when it comes to like potential capabilities and things. Let's see. Danielle asks, what is your race schedule for 2019? I don't know. I'm just taking it one thing at a time. I did a 5K race with a stroller like 2 weeks ago or something. It was 2 kids in the stroller and across like sand and tree roots and stuff. And I beat almost everybody. So there. I don't know. I like to do definitely some tries around here. I don't think anything, I think mostly just Olympic focused tries. Maybe we'll see how the year goes, like a half marathon towards the end of the year. I think this is going to be a pretty busy year for me, so I'm not going to like sign up for an Ironman or anything like that. Just my guess. I like to do just more local races here and enjoy the scene here. There's like a race that's a couple hundred meters away over there at the rowing basin here in Amsterdam, so I'm tempted to do that as well. Thoughts on Element including crash detection in the future? I don't know if they have the accelerometers and gyros in there to do that. I would think future versions should probably do that, but I don't know if the current versions have that in there. Jackson asked, do you see a Phoenix 6 happening this year? Maybe. I think Garmin's been pretty consistent on like a 12 to 16, maybe even 18-month schedule on that. So Phoenix 5 Plus was announced in June and shipped in June, very late June, I think the 21st or something like that. And then so that would put Garmin in like the fall time frame. That's a risky time frame. Like if you're talking September, totally cool. But if you're talking announcing something in November or getting that time frame, that's super duper risky to basically screw up your holiday sales by not having product available. So companies like strive, and I know Garmin strives to avoid getting past like mid-October timeframe for any sort of announcements. And it's just, there's a whole lot of things that go into that. Like one being media guides, right? So like holiday guides, media guides, all that kind of junk happens in the August timeframe. And so you have to have products in people's hands by August for guides to drop in September, October, for holiday buying guides and advertisers and all that kind of stuff. So you basically have to have product in that August, September timeframe. If you don't, you've kind of missed the boat. Like there are exceptions to that for smaller companies can get away with things like launching stuff in October, early November. But aside a Garmin, something like that, into the holiday buying period, they've got to be damn sure that they've got that watch ready and they've got the stock behind it. You know, you're talking a company that could very easily sell 1 million Phoenix units of a given type, and so they've got to make sure that at the busiest buying period of the year, they've got that stock there and they don't like stumble and faceplant. So we'll see. If it happens, I would suspect it would happen towards the end of the year. Maybe, I don't know, we'll see. It's just, again, they've been super consistent, 12 to 16 or so months every cycle since the very beginning. Let's see. Tao asks, will Polo produce a cycling computer in replacement for the A370? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure what the thoughts are right now on the whole like activity tracker market, like that lower end. I think both them and Suunto have kind of like poked around a little bit there and are trying to figure out whether or not that makes sense anymore for them at that lower end, if they can compete with the Fitbits of the world and even the Garmins of the world. I guess it really is Fitbits and the Garmins of the world that are dominating that segment. So I'm not sure. As for a cycling computer, again, I don't know. Like I'm not sure. Sometimes I feel like when it comes to products, Polar like focuses on one thing and then forgets everything else. And that thing falls off the ledge and then they're like, oh crap, it's so falling off the ledge, don't grab it. And then this thing, like I don't know, sometimes it doesn't feel like there is a cohesive long-term product strategy for how they get from one place to the next place in multiple groups. So like at Garmin, at Fitbit, at Apple, etc. There's product groups, and that product group has a strategy. Like in Garmin, there's a cycling group, and there's the Forerunner running group, and there's the outdoor group. And those groups have more or less the same people that stay with them and move forward, and they move from product to product to product. Versus Polar, I feel it's just like kind of swerving all over the road, and I'm not sure they're getting that consistency, and that's why people get frustrated with the cycling computers that they were like the M450. Awesome, like that was a awesome cycling computer for the money. It still is an awesome cycling computer for the money, but it's like it was like dropped on the table, and then what happened next? Like it was kind of, I don't want to say it was forgotten about, but it was forgotten about. Like, and it just, I feel like they've got to start with the product and keep on iterating on it and get to the point where their people are looking forward to the next generation, not just randomly expecting something to drop out of the sky. Norwal asks, how is your quest for the pizza oven going? It's going slowly. I might get through some of the list. It's so silly because the list, if you've seen the list, it is absolutely ridiculous how short this list is and how many items are on it and how little time it would take to do this list. Like this would probably be maybe 3 hours tops of work to do on this list. It's just like anything else, there's just a million other things to do, and at the end of the day, it's not on the top of the list, unfortunately, on my list anyways. Let's see. John asks, thoughts on replacing an original Vivo Active? Ooh, that's way back when. Biking and running with chest strap, replacing that with a new Apple Watch. I would say that's a pretty good upgrade. That's a pretty significant one. But you are changing directions. You're changing something from a watch that you charge every once in a long while to a watch that you charge more or less every other night or every night. I love the Apple Watch. I wore it actually quite a bit in Cape Town. The only reason I'm not wearing it now is it's not charged. But it's funny, like I went through kind of waves when I was in Cape Town of wearing different watches. I was finishing up some reviews on a few things, but then I went for like a couple weeks where I was just wearing just the Apple Watch. That's it. And I really like it as a day-to-day watch. I don't like it as a fitness watch, but I really like it as a day-to-day watch. I like, in particular for me, we use Nest cams, drop cams, whatever, everywhere. They're all around the studio. They're at home. We brought one with us to Cape Town to put in the kids' room. And so for me to be able to, like, when I get an alert that something's triggered, to be able to look at it and go, no big deal, and that quickly is awesome to me. And because I can see the image of whatever it is. So I can see, like, if someone rings the doorbell here at the studio, who it is and whether I care or not. Or I can see if there's a weird flash of light here in the studio, like, is someone actually in the studio, or is it simply just a weird flash of light because something reflected outside? And so that's the kind of stuff that I really, really appreciate in the Apple Watch that I don't get on a Garmin or anything else. Let's see. Neil. Hello, Neil. Let's see. Ben Hobbs did an interview with Sarah True recently, and he has suggested a return to TRS podcasting. Will you hook up again for the rebirth of the DSCR podcast? Yeah, Ben and I have been chatting a little bit here and there last couple months or so. I don't know what we'll do. I don't know, like, we've talked about things. I think it's just logistically, it's still a logistical challenge on the podcast. It's purely, I think at this point, part time zone, part travel schedules that make it tricky for us in the time zone arrangement that we have. And like for me, when he's available for after work, it's now my midnight 1 a.m., which isn't like a huge problem for me, but then I'm recording at home and I have to be careful not to wake up the little ones at that time of night. And so that's tricky for me. It just sucks being 7 hours ahead of him. That's all it comes down to. Marcus asks, let's say with IQ Squared is released and has very low accuracy, what kind of recourse do the customers have? Approximately none. It's Kickstarter, unfortunately. Like, it is kind of what it is. You have more recourse if you were a non-Kickstarter backer, like a normal ordering person, but by and large, that kind of is what Kickstarter is. See, Dino asks, hey DC, what are you hearing on the industry about the accuracy of the Giant's Power Pro? Very little there to go by. Not hearing good things. They emailed me like a couple weeks ago. I got to email them back. Sorry guys, if you're watching. They wanted to get a bike in my hands or something now that I'm back here. I'm up to review it. I'm up to try it out. Thus far, from the people that I know that have one, including some pretty well-known people, it's not going terribly awesome. So I don't know. Like, I don't know. It's funny because no one's taking credit for it. And I've talked to a lot of people in the industry, and best I can tell, they rolled their own on this, which, no offense, it's a poor idea. Like, we saw, like, Shimano couldn't pull it off. Shimano tried to roll their own power meter and ended up with this flaming turd. And so Giant done the same thing, and I'm not sure if they'll get better. I'm sure it'll get better, but power meters are really, really hard, and I don't know why either company just didn't either, like, there's 20 power meter companies to pick from. Just pick one of them that's functional, like one of the startups that's got a functional working thing going on, not a lot of sales, and roll it in, especially for crank arm power meters. Like, again, it's kind of a dime a dozen out there. Yeah, there's different like accuracy levels that, you know, I like in edge cases and stuff, I would trust certain vendors over others, but I don't know why they started from from scratch. That was a mistake. Oh no, I just went way down. Where did I go? There we go. Up to ask, any plans to do in-depth review of the Tax Neo smart bike anytime soon? As soon as I have a unit, I shall do so. I don't have a unit currently, so I'm waiting for them to give me a final production one. Not give me, but like drop one off that I can try for a while and give back to them. Have you tried the update to the Vantage V? Is it worth the price? I've installed the update on my watch. I think I did like one workout with it. I didn't like do a whole bunch of extensive testing with the latest firmware updates in the last little, whatever it is, couple weeks here. They're getting there. It's a long road. I don't know what that solution is there. They need more software developers. They need to move faster, unfortunately. If I buy, let's see, Jeff asks, if I buy a Polar Align bike computer, can I get it to auto sync to Garmin Connect? There's some hacky ways to do it, but none of them tend to work very well. And they don't tend to work very well for very long. Like Garmin seems to get a little more aggressive on blocking some of that stuff. So by and large, I would just consider that not usually worth it, is kind of my unfortunate feeling there. Mark asks, running and biking has so much great stuff coming out, anything for swim. It's kind of low. Like, I don't know, it continues to be the problem where swim stuff, companies just don't want to invest in it. The market, I think, is pretty small. And I think people are looking at it going, for like competitive swimmers, they're either not going to wear something or they'll just get by with something super slim, like just even a simple watch of some sort. So it's really, really tough to get into that market because the vast majority of competitive swimmers just want to use the clock on the wall and not using a watch with high-end metrics. And then those people that aren't competitive are usually happy with just like a Fitbit or a basic Garmin that is indoor swim tracking. So I don't really foresee a lot more in the swim realm anytime soon. Russell asks, Osmo Pocket review and DJI Smart Controller. I definitely will be reviewing the Osmo Pocket here as soon as I finish editing my videos. Realistically, it won't be the next 7 days because I got to fly to New York on Monday, and then some stuff happen, and then I've got to do a bunch of stuffs, which means that I got to spend a bunch of time in front of a bunch of computers making things happen super quick. And so I know next week will not be good for things that are not related to the things that I'm going to New York for. So I can tell you that right now, unfortunately. But I want to do everything, as I mentioned earlier in the video, my DJI Pocket stuff. The video's all shot, everything's like collected. I just have to simply edit it. That's all it comes down to. Let's see. Frederick asks, will the Vantage V become a great watch, or has that boat sailed? Or do Polar need to release the Vantage V Plus V900 piece of hardware instead? I hope Polar doesn't. I hope Polar does not add more hardware. That's not the problem. It's software, purely software. I mean, there may be like challenges from like a accuracy stuff, but that seems to be getting better at each iteration. It's just software, just simply behind. It's all it comes down to. So I hope Polar doesn't get distracted and go releasing more hardware. I know hardware like sells. That's what people like to gather around the campfire and talk about hardware, but it's software. That's what's killing them. If you look at any review from anyone, mine, the 5K runners, anyone else, it's the same thing. Like, we're all saying the same thing. And accuracy is a part of that software and like the algorithms. I think the sensor they have on board is probably totally capable of what they need to do there. But I think the algorithms aren't caught up to that from a heart rate standpoint. I think the GPS is still getting there, and I think just the feature set is just behind where the price point is today. Paul, how long do you think it will take Wahoo to sort the kick rate team problems? My brother has had 7 replacements, which have all different faults. He's even had one with Wahoo 2018 Premium wrote on box. I wish I knew. I have no idea. I honestly have no idea. I think if you put it in like the 3 simple buckets of problems that Wahoo's had with the kicker and the kicker core, you have a kicker problem with sound. That I think they've solved. I think that's actually good. Kicker core problem with sound, I think that's probably also solved. the ESD problem, which I believe affects both. That's the electrostatic discharge problem, where basically people can touch a kicker the wrong way and kill it. I don't think that's solved. I think they've reduced the likelihood of that happening. I think all that kind of stuff, but I don't think they've actually solved the core of that issue, which is that chipset on board isn't protected against static discharge, which is how people are killing, like you said, 7 in a row. It's not because they were dead kickers coming out of the factory. It's purely a certain consumer has set up the environmental circumstances for that static electricity to discharge into their bike and into the trainer and kill it. And that consumer, because of the fact that it's environmental, is more than likely going to have it happen again and again and again. Like me here in the cave, I don't think I've ever shocked myself once here, ever. It's not a good environment for that. Like there's no carpet here, there's nothing that I'm like rubbing my feet on. I'm a triathlete, so I'm not generally wearing socks. Like it just doesn't happen to me. So I'm not convinced. I think Wahoo understands the severity of the problem. Like obviously they understand the financial impact and the scope of the problem, and they understand the technical aspects of the problem. I have no doubt they do. I don't know if they understand how angry people are and how much it's impacting their long-term product set. Like if I just skip down the road, if I go to, let's say, Eurobike this summer and they have new products there, I guarantee you the first comments on any post or video I publish are going to be, yeah, I'm going to wait 3 months until we see how many trainers someone's killed. Like I still don't think Wahoo's gotten ahead of this to the point of like not only stopping the issue, but regaining people's confidence that they have absolutely solved the issue and that they're going to solve it for future products. And I think Wahoo's taken a pretty significant reputation hit on this. I mean, the video I had, it's got like, I don't know, 50,000 views or something like that. And the post is a crap ton as well. And like you said, there are 7 replacements for a single unit. That's nuts. Let's see. G-I-R-I with a lot of little thingies over. I'm sorry, I'm completely butchering your name. Have you information about the Vector 4? No, I haven't heard anything in that realm, to be honest. I think I'm not sure it would behoove Garmin to do that. I know, like in some ways, they're a lot like Wahoo was in terms of the quality issues and whatnot. I think Garmin's over that hump, though. I think they're now down to like a couple of random, like it's almost like you would ants, like you've killed the entire colony like by spraying or whatever, and then you're like, I found 1 ant over there, and then we got to go kill it and figure out the next thing. I think that's where Garmin is right now with Vector 3. Like they've got like 99% of people figured out. I think there's a couple random edge cases that some people have stumbled into. By some, I'm talking like single-digit sums. But again, that's just like Wahoo. Like that was a year-long process of people being really, really angry, and rightfully so. And so I don't know, setting that aside, I think they're at a point where that product is actually pretty stable, and frankly, it's super competitive. So I'm not sure why they would refresh that. Just like I'm not sure why Favero dropped their prices. Like they didn't, business-wise, that wouldn't make a lot of sense. Business-wise, it would make sense for Favero to introduce a new product because they probably could get rid of the pods. Then they'd be like the holy grail of, you know, not having Garmin, not being Garmin, but not having pods. That makes them super appealing. SS Warhog asked, would you recommend a kicker core as my first phone trainer, or I should start lower? Kicker core, aside from all the issues we just talked about, again, Wahoo's saying that's representing like 3 to 4%. Knowing the numbers, I believe them. I think that actually probably is legitimately representing 3 to 4%. I think people are underestimating just how many trainers Wahoo is selling. So that said, I have no problems recommending kicker core. Just don't like shuffle your feet in socks across carpet on the way to your kicker core. Sean asked, best pedal-based power meter right now for the money? Easy, Favero Ossiomo, no problem. Though, to be fair, if you can get like a pair of PowerTap P1 pedals for super cheap, then definitely consider that as well. Like they're the same as the P2s. Literally, they're the same. There's like 8 grams or something silly, 16 grams shaved off of them, but you're never going to notice. They look the same from the outside. Actually, I think the P1s are prettier than the P2s. So I would definitely get a lot. Norwell asks, speaking of Nest, what did you make of the Google snafu regarding hidden microphones, their products? I didn't follow it too closely, to be honest. I saw it. Some of that stuff is kind of weird. Like, I don't really understand how that could slide through, that there was a microphone there. It just doesn't really, I don't know. I generally treat things like that, and I guess it just comes from my like IT security background. I treat like our Nest cams and stuff like that is assuming the world is watching. It's the easiest way to do it. Like, that's the only way I do it. It's the only way I simplify it that way. Like, we sure as heck don't have like a Nest cam in our bedroom. Yeah, we have one in the kids' room, but like, okay, it'd be creepy if you want to watch a little baby sleep, but that's not impacting us. We don't have one like in our kitchen, our living room, or anything like that. Like, it's just, that's just not the way we do. We have stuff in places that if someone hacks into that or whatever, just to me, that's kind of the way I treat it. Even like here in the studio, we don't have one in like the office area, for example. We have them in the main studio and outside and downstairs and everywhere, but not like in our workspace or that kind of area. Let's see, Chip Hawkins. Hi, Chip. I'm the Wahoo CEO. What's up? So that was like a long while ago, I think, but I've now caught up to that. So there we go. Chip is in the house. Let's see. I'm down to, actually, it's not that many questions left. I'm down to like 7 or 8 questions left. So you got questions, now's a good time to drop them in. Let's see, Shawnee asks, I've seen the Garmin Edge 520 Not Plus for the same price as the 130, 199. Is it worth it to get the 520 even though it's an older model? Generally, yeah. I would say if you were to give me a 520 or a 130, I'm gonna take the 520 almost every single time. The 130 has the advantage of being able to connect to Bluetooth smart sensors, and it's smaller, and it's prettier. But me personally, I'll take the 520 any day of the week. Helder, let's schedule a run in Central Park then. I'm in Jersey, 5 minutes away from Penn Station. I'm horrible on scheduling runs. I'm not opposed to it. I could be around next Monday, I guess, afternoon sometime. Shoot me a note on Twitter. That's usually the best place. Might be up for that. I don't tend to schedule like group stuff on I'm only in New York for 24 hours, 30 hours, something like that. So super quick trip. And I know this trip is definitely very high on the cluster F level in terms of the amount of stuff I'm trying to jam in there. So I tend to like try to just let things float and hope it all works out. But shoot me a note on Twitter, and I will see if we can make something happen on Monday afternoon sometime. Let's see. Thoughts on a 945 in March, April, assuming have music and hopefully maps? I don't know. I think, people hope for a lot of things, but I wouldn't necessarily think that'll always happen. Traditionally Garmin, when they've released tri-watches, have done so in March and April. That's the time of year when they've done so. It makes sense. That's the tri market is like waking up from their winter slumber. But they've also slid things like the Phoenix series, for example, is in the June timeframe. Last year, that's a tri-watch. And I don't know, I think it'll be interesting to see what Garmin does there. I love my 935. It's what I use almost all the time, except for right now apparently. But I just like it because I like that thin. I like the plastic feel to it. I just like a thin, light watch on my wrist. I'm just kind of simple that way. Let's see. Eliandro asks, is there going to be an XDR Freehub body for the kicker? Yes, there is. I think I put the date in my SRAM access video. I think it's I can't remember when they said it. Maybe it was Q2, I think. Something like that. It's soonish, but not super soonish. So it's kind of in betweenish. But it's in there. But yes, that is coming. Let's see. Andrew Nicholson, what do you think of the drops feature on Zwift? I talked about it a while ago, but just for folks catching up, I like the feature. I actually do like it. I think for one, it needs to be in the smartphone mobile app. I don't understand why I can't buy stuff on the mobile app, or why I have to even open up the full Zwift app to buy stuff. To me, that just feels weird. So hopefully that's just a things are out of sync sort of standpoint. But I like the idea. I just like to see it expanded more. I wish there was more guidance on what will be offered as drops. Like I'm willing to plunk down 400 grand drops, not real money, on a frame to match my real bike. But I don't want to do that and then find out like next week I can unlock some crazy new feature that I could spend drops on. So I guess a little bit of guidance on what we should expect in that in the future would be good. That's just my 2 cents there. Mark asked, do you think Garmin will look at buying TrainerRoad to complement the purchase of Tax? I don't think so. It'd be interesting if they did. It'd be super interesting, but I don't think so. I'm not sure if that would get them what they want. I'm not sure what they want, to be honest, but I don't know if that would. Like, TrainerRoad has developed a bit of a cult following, and I don't know. I just don't know if that would work. Like I think Garmin could do it absolutely, and I think it would. People would keep on using it, and it would definitely expand the TrainerRoad base and all that jazz. But it'd be a question of whether or not Garmin could replicate something like that again, and whether or not people would buy into it. Like, I think a large reason why TrainerRoad is successful to the degree they are today is because of their history and wherever they were. So people jumped on the TrainerRoad bandwagon years ago and have stayed on that bandwagon and kept on going, and it's expanded. They told their friends how awesome it is and all that kind of stuff. I think if Garmin made like a competitor to that, it wouldn't really fit there. And I think by buying TrainerRoad, I'm not honestly sure what they get out of that. It's sort of like buying Strava. Like there's no good reason for Garmin to buy Strava because they get everything they want for free today. Like Garmin could lean on TrainerRoad for something or want something, and they could pretty much get it because they're big enough that they matter. And so just like Strava, like Garmin leaned on Strava and they got what they wanted around exclusively around like live segments and Strava Beacon and all that kind of stuff for preset periods, and they got it all for free. So I don't know. It's one of those like it doesn't make good business sense, and I don't think it does. Let's see. Jury asks, what's your FTP? I think right now it's like somewhere between 290-ish and 300, maybe, something like that. I don't really do FTP tests all the time. I just sort of let the different apps that I use just auto track it, and I think the last one I saw was like 288, 290, somewhere in there. I don't tend to like, again, I don't do FTP tests, and I don't tend to do structured workouts enough that are good for judging that based on that. So I kind of ride based on what I got to get done test-wise, whether it be a long ride or mountain biking or just whatever. I just kind of ride for the sake of riding. Any hopes for this year's home trainers and bike tech releases? Warhog asks, SS Warhog. I just hope they darn well work. I feel like this has been a rough year for smart trainers, like coming out of Eurobike into now where so many of them didn't work. And then when they didn't work, or they didn't work well, there's been bugs. Like I'm gonna beat up on Tax for a second here. Like I'm working on Tax Flux review for the Flux 2. The Flux S, no problems. The Flux 2, and I kind of got through most of it, and like the last things I tend to do are data analysis, and it also tends to be ergo testing. The last test that I tend to do, I tend to ride Zwift and other things like that by itself. So like a couple days before I'm ready to publish, I go and try out TrainerRoad over Bluetooth Smart. It doesn't work. Like it just fundamentally won't sustain a connection between TrainerRoad and the Flux 2. And I sit there, I'm like, how did no one notice this? How did this trainer has been out for 2 months and nobody noticed that doesn't work on Bluetooth Smart? Like that means no iPad, no iPhone, no, I mean like what? How are companies not testing this? And then like I'm having erg mode issues with it from a power accuracy standpoint, and I just feel like, in obviously Wahoo's issues with their trainers in terms of, you know, by ESD and noise and stuff, and the kinetics issues with their trainers, it's just I just want stuff to work. Like I'm looking around the room trying to like pick out trainers that work. Like the Hammer works, the Hammer 2 works, but all they did this year for 2018, 2019 was just paint it black. So that they called it the Hammer 2. So they really have like 3 years in that trainer, 4 years to get that right. So kind of cheating calling that new. The Elite Zoom that's sitting over there isn't working yet. They shipped that in a limited quantity back in November and then stopped shipment after some issues are brought up. So then we're waiting on that. Yeah, the Neo 2 has been pretty good. Though still some Zwift issues as well. Like I feel like there's a gap. Like I feel like there's a fundamental problem where the trainer companies aren't talking to the trainer app companies. They aren't doing tests. And it's funny because like I sit here and go, this is totally off topic of what you actually asked for, which is exciting news. I'm giving you the Debbie Downer stuff instead. Like I feel like it's not hard. Like what I do in trainers and power meters is so replicable. It's so repeatable. It's nuts. Like if you look at my reviews and look at how I do trainer test and power meter test, I'm doing the same thing every time. GP Llama is doing the same exact tests every time. These aren't complex. Like I'm testing for certain things. I'm testing to make sure, you know, does it work on Amp Plus? Does it work on Bluetooth Smart? Does it work with Zwift? Does it work with Trainer Road? Does it work with my 30x30 test? Does it work with Zwift workouts? Does it work with Zwift normal mode? Boom, boom, boom. Is it accurate across all those? Does it do sprints? Does it do low cadence? Does it do high cadence? Like this isn't hard. This is not hard stuff. And it's so flipping frustrating that these companies can't figure this out. Like stop making products, stop releasing products until you do these basic tests. I'm not talking like super complex GPS tests. I'm not talking all these sort of things. This is basic tests. Like I can do all the tests I need to do for a single trainer in one morning if I wanted to. I don't because I would be really tired. But that's like from a training company standpoint, any of those companies can do all three of those tests, same test that Llama does or I do, and sweep through and know whether we can hit the same problems we're hitting. We shouldn't be the ones hitting these problems. I shouldn't be the one reporting 2 months after a product release. I'm not talking like pre-production stuff. I have no problem, to be really clear to the companies, I have no problems if a company sends me a pre-prod unit, it doesn't work as beta, awesome, I'm happy to talk with you about that, private or otherwise, and figure that out. That's the whole point of sending me beta stuff and getting feedback. I'm talking when a product is shipped, it's out the door, it's done, as was the case with the Flux 2, with the Zumo. Like, it shouldn't be happening. It just shouldn't be happening. So there's my rant for the day. Let's see, where am I here? I'm behind again. Being immersed in the tech world, Norwell asked, being immersed in the tech world, home and work, do you have any smart tech for Lucy? I think we bought her a collar a long time ago that had like a little pedometer thing in it, and I think she hated it so much. I don't even know where it is. It's probably in a box somewhere from Paris. I don't know. No, Lucy's a grump. Lucy's our dog. It's our little Boston Terrier dog, and she's very, very friendly, but she just looks at you and RBF all day long. Let's see. Frederick asked, will you review some of the sleep and training recovery tech like the Oura Ring, BioStrap, HRV training app? Some of it, yes. I've been kind of poking at some of the sleep stuff. I think I actually have like 3 or 4 sleep trackers on my mattress right now. But the problem with a lot of the recovery tech for me right now in my training is it's not super structured. So it's actually really difficult for me to make sure it's working. Like I think in order to properly review some of that recovery tech, you have to have a very structured day in and day out, week in and week out type schedule, where you can see the load going up and all that kind of stuff. And it's tough to do that, especially HRV type stuff, when you don't have that kind of structure in your schedule. So not at the moment, I think. What do you think of the Beco simulator compared to Zwift? I haven't played with it a lot in the last year or two. I played with it a while ago. I think the graphics are getting better there, but I can't say like I have a ton of time with it. I think the challenge is just making sure there's people in it. That's what people like about Zwift, is there's people there. I know some people don't like people on Zwift, but I kind of like people on Zwift. So I don't know. Maybe I'll circle back to it at some point. I get the feeling the company is drifting. Like I don't understand what the end goal is. Is the end goal to be a software platform provider, or is the end goal to be a trainer company? I think it's pretty clear at this point in time, doing both doesn't work. Just my guess. What do you think Trainer Road needs to do to keep up with Zwift? TR is better, but in my opinion, but less entertaining. I don't know. It's a good question. On one hand, like Trainer Road continues to grow and they continue to do things, and they're not taking like this huge piles of VC or private equity type cash in and stuff. So in that sense, like they're growing as a sustainable business by themselves, which is great. And last I talked with them, they hadn't ever taken any sort of investment, which is kind of cool. Like they just do their own thing. Do they need to be at the same numbers as Zwift? I don't know, probably not. And like they're supporting however many employees they have there right now and whatnot. Is that a long-term challenge for them though? Probably. Eventually Zwift will decide to pivot more into the structured training and make their structured training side of things legit and serious. And I think that's where TrainerRoads developed, again, kind of back to that cult following I talked about earlier, where people trust in their podcast, which is excellent, and their coaching and all that stuff, to know that what they're putting in their platform has validity behind it. Versus I look at some of the Zwift workouts and I just laugh. I'm like, how is there a structured workout that literally has a flat line all the way across to stay at the same power for the entire workout? Like, why would I even open that up? Like, that's just, come on. But it's not hard. Like, again, going back to the basics of structured workouts, there's a lot of good coaches out there. Chad from TrainerRoad's a great coach and he's doing great stuff, but there's a lot of Chads out there. And so it wouldn't take a whole lot to find another Chad for Zwift and go and do kind of the same thing. That's sort of the challenge with coaching plans, especially because we don't all agree on different ways or on the same way to coach. And so that I think is TrainerRoad's risk, and how do they mitigate that? And I don't have a good answer for that. Like, I think they're doing excellent stuff and they're keep on chugging there. But if I was them, I'd worry for the day that Zwift decides to pivot, go hire a higher profile coach with exclusivity agreements and stuff like that, and then just kind of like do a Snapchat, Instagram sort of thing, like just duplicate everything and be done with it. That's tough. Neil asks, Rhythm 24, epic fail, question mark. I don't know. I'm not sure. Like, for me, it works when it works. I think when I try to, like, it works great if as a Rhythm Plus. Like, if I just think of the Rhythm Plus standpoint, it works great. It's when I use all the extra features that it kind of starts to crumble. Like, sometimes it works. Like, I think some elements that work better than the Polar OH1 from like an offline standpoint and stuff like that, and other elements like the whole swim thing is a mess, and the Android support sounds like it's still troubling for a lot of people. I don't know if it's epic fail, but it's definitely like faceplant, if that makes sense. So it's halfway in between. Epic fail implies like you can't get back up again. Faceplant implies, yeah, you can stand back up again. Let's see. Souls Not Smiles asks, you already answered the question I was going to ask about best value pedal-based power meter. I'm a total noob, so I don't know. Will I get separate left-right data on the Wahoo Element? Yes, you will. Let's see, with Asioma, it doesn't matter. You get it across all the pedals, you get it. Marcus, why do you favor the Asioma versus the Garmin? Garmin has much more battery life and equal accuracy, or is it only price? I think it's one, it just works. A lot of people had challenges in the past with the Garmin Vector 3s, and so there's a lot of history there. For me, they continue to work just fine. I've still got the old battery caps in them as well. Vector 3, I think it's cheap, but yeah, they're a lot cheaper. They're basically half the cost of a Vector 3, and it's hard to argue with that. Like they got little pod things, but if you ignore the pods, if you don't cover the pods, you don't see the pods while you're riding. Well, no one else can see them anyways because of the way your foot is. I think to me, that's probably the biggest reason there. So let's see. What is your favorite, last question here, because I can feel my voice getting dry. What is your favorite GPS computer and power meter? I don't know. Power meter, I just use a lot of stuff. I routinely go back, even just mentioning the whole Favero thing. Vero, I've got my wife's got Favero on her bike. Right now I'm wrapping up my PowerTap P2 pedals on there. I'll probably throw back Vector 3 on there just because they look prettier, honestly. I've got Stages LR on the crankset. I like the cork as well. It just works. Like a super high just works factor. Head unit, I've been using the 520 Plus quite a bit. I also like the 1030 a lot. I use the Bolt occasionally, but probably the 1030 I think is my favorite. It's super responsive comparatively to the rest of the Garmin's. It's not super fast, but it's super responsive. So There we go. I think that is it. That is all the questions I've got time for. It's 6:15 my time, so I got to get home and get the kids dinner and all that fun stuff. But thank you for watching. It's been a good time here. Hopefully we'll do this a little more often. Definitely stay tuned for the next couple of weeks. I think it's going to be busy. So stay tuned to the channel, hit subscribe, and all that jazz if you have not. Got a lot of fun stuff coming up. Have a good weekend.